Hello. I was just looking at my globe. I'm trying to decide where to go on my next adventure. Do you like adventures? Do you like stories? Would you like to hear one of my stories about a friend of mine? You would? Okay, let's begin. Duncan was a very sad dragon. Things seemed to be going from bad to worse. Most dragons can breathe fire when they're angry and mad, but not Duncan. Things were very bad indeed, no matter how hard he tried. He would huff, and he would puff, and he would pant, and he would snort until he was totally exhausted. Nothing would happen. All the other dragons would stand and laugh at Duncan when he would roar out in anger. Nothing came out of his mouth except a draught. "Hey, Windybag," they shouted, "you're just full of air. You're a disgrace to all dragons, and we've decided you're not worthy to live in our lair." Poor Duncan. He was so upset. What was he to do now? Even his friends didn't want him. So, with tears rolling down his big scaly cheeks, he wandered back to his cave and hid inside. It's no good, thought Duncan. I'll never be brave and strong like the others. So Duncan sat down, curled his big great tail around him, and went to sleep. One day, while all alone on the cliff top, something strange occurred. There was a sudden rustling in the bushes, and all the trees began to quiver and quake. There was a peculiar noise coming from somewhere, a whistling and a wheezing and a crickle, then a crack. And it got louder and louder, and then all of a sudden there was a slow creaking noise, and smack! Something fell to the ground. Duncan caught a funny smell in his nose. He sniffed the air once, then twice, then 3 times. Then he sniffed it once more. Then he looked from left to right, and he suddenly realized the forest was on fire. "Oh my goodness," thought Duncan, "what on earth must I do?" The other forest creatures were scurrying to and fro, trying to get out of the fire. Duncan turned around in circles, shouting to the animals to come his way, to hide in his cave where they'd be safe. "Come on here where it's safe," he shouted. The little creatures seemed to come from everywhere, coughing and spluttering, terrified for their lives. Duncan could feel the heat now, and it was getting nearer. He really wanted to hide in the cave with his other friends, but he knew he was their only hope. He had to try and save the forest. But how? Then all at once it came to him. If what the others said about him was true, and it did seem that way, that he was only full of wind, then perhaps he could blow out the fire. So Duncan took a deep breath, and he walked towards the flames. Oh, he was scared and very unsure of his ability, but he had to try. So he took another deep breath, and another, and another, and another, until his tummy was hurting so much. He thought he was going to pop. And then, all at once, Duncan did a great big and he let it all go. He blew, and he blew, and he blew, and he coughed, and he blew some more, until suddenly and slowly the flames went out, and all that was left was a thick black smoke hanging in the sky. Duncan, he sat back on the ground and looked around, making sure the fire was out. He saw a little ember burning, and he flapped it out with his big tail. Totally black with smoke and soot, Duncan, tired and weary, wandered back towards his cave to check that all the creatures were safe. But as he came towards the top of the hill, he suddenly saw the animals coming towards him, cheering and waving. They were so happy that Duncan had saved the forest. They declared him a hero. Yes, he had faced the enemy and won without any help from the others. The older dragons came out of their lair and stood in front of Duncan. All the creatures fell silent. They were worried that the dragons may be angry and jealous. Duncan stood alone with his head down and kicking the ground with his foot. He was also unsure that the others would be angry with him. Then, looking up, he noticed the oldest dragon coming towards him with his arms outstretched. He came towards Duncan and hugged him so tight. "Thank you, thank you, thank you," said the dragon. "Thank you, Duncan. You've proved yourself most worthy and certainly saved the day." All the creatures cheered and jumped around with joy. And Duncan, well, he just smiled and walked back to his cave, no longer wishing to be the same as all the other dragons. He was Duncan, and of that he could be very proud. If you like my story, come back tomorrow. I might just have another one. Bye for now.